You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 422, Holding the Line, when growth is not the most strategic move. If you're a successful, busy, small business owner who wants the straight talk on what it takes to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. The most strategic move you can make in your business right now might not be to grow. Yes, stick around because in today's episode, I'm breaking down exactly when holding the line is the right call, why it's more active work than most business owners realize, and what that work actually looks like in practice. However, before we dive in, I want to invite you to take my next level business owner quiz. 3 short minutes to take this quiz and find out what's most holding you back from taking your business to the next level. Once you take the quiz and you find out what's holding you back, you'll get a curated playlist of this podcast with specific episodes that have strategies that you can implement in your business immediately. So head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz and take the quiz today. And now let's get to the straight talk. Some seasons in business, you're pushing hard. You're growing, you're saying yes, you're gaining ground. And some seasons, you're losing ground and backtracking. But what if I told you there's a third option? One that actively protects your business and what you've already built. You've been told that the only acceptable direction in business is up and to the right. That if you're not growing, you're failing. That momentum is everything. But what happens when life gets heavier? Our business hits a season that needs protection instead of pressure. Do you keep pushing? Do you keep working harder and burn yourself and your team out? All because you don't know what else to do. Well, there's a third option, and I call it holding the line. Holding the line is active, intentional work of preserving what you've already built. It's not hustling harder, it's not growing faster, and it's definitely not giving up. So picture this, a boulder on a hill. When you're in growth season, you're pushing that boulder up the hill. There's forward momentum, you're gaining ground. And it's the work of expansion, investing, scaling, saying yes to all the opportunities. However, when you're holding the line, you stop pushing up, but you haven't walked away from the boulder. You've planted yourself firmly, hands braced, legs set. You're actively keeping the boulder exactly where it's at. You're protecting the ground you already gained. Then there's the default scenario that happens often. When you step away and stop actively holding. Do you know what happens to that boulder? It rolls backwards. And that is whether you meant to let go or not. Your business is the boulder. Your business is either growing, holding, or slipping. Growth and holding are both choices. Slipping is the default when neither one of these things are happening. So let me ask you, do you honestly have the capacity to push for growth right now? Or is holding the line on what you've already built the smarter call? So many business owners have never even asked themselves that question. They haven't given themselves permission to ask that question, or it just hasn't crossed their mind that they could ask, do I honestly have the capacity to push for growth right now? But asking this question changes everything. So I want to cover with you when you should be asking this very important question. Because there are circumstances in your life and in your business that should make you stop and honestly assess your capacity. And I call these signals. And a signal is not a reason to just default to, I'm going to hold the line and I don't want to go do growth. This is not an excuse. It's a reason to ask the question. I believe we are real people living real lives, running real businesses. And we can't just think of our business as a small business owner through one narrow filter, which is ignore myself personally, ignore my own capacity, and just push forward for growth because that's what I'm quote unquote supposed to do. Now, before I jump into these signals, I do want to share with you that two business owners with the exact same circumstances, well, I guess no one could have the exact same circumstances, but you know what I'm trying to say. With the same circumstances can make two different calls, and both can be right. What matters is whether you've asked yourself the question and honestly answered. So let's start with what's happening in your life, your personal life. There are times where asking this question really makes sense. How about when there's a major life event? A death in the family, a divorce, a personal transition that's reshaping your world, your schedule, your responsibilities? When life is asking this much of you, your business cannot ask for the same level of you at the same time. How about a health issue? Your own health, a family member who needs more of you right now? Your body and the people you love come first. And that is okay because sometimes the business can wait. Ultimately, the business just wants you to show up your best. And there are certainly times that we need to shift gears and push forward on prioritizing ourselves or our loved ones. And that's okay. How about a season where your attention belongs elsewhere? A child who is struggling, a parent who needs caregiving, a relationship that needs rebuilding. Your business is not the fire that needs the most oxygen right now. It might be the relationships and the people that you love most. How about this one? Just a conscious choice to live slower. More presence with your family, more vacations, more of you in your own life. That is a legitimate strategic choice, full stop. Now, as I share this list with you, this list was pretty easy for me to make. Not just because I've seen this in my own clients and experiences with coaching my clients, but because I live a real life. I can tell you that I have had major life events, deaths in the family. I have definitely dealt with my own health issues over the years. I have taken care of my aunt and all of her health and, personal finances and her well-being. I'm her caregiver. There also has been times where I was just super content with my own business, my own revenue, my own profitability, how smooth things were running. And I have certainly made the conscious choice to just hold the line because I wanted things to feel differently in the business so that I could take more days off, so I could be present with my family, so I could do projects around the house. And that was a time for me to ask this question. Is this a time for growth in my business? What capacity do I have to push forward right now? All right, let's shift gears to some of the signals that are coming from inside your business on why you would want to be asking, do you honestly have the capacity to push for growth right now? Yes, some of these signals are going to be coming right from your business, and you definitely do not want to ignore them. How about if you made recently a key hire in your business? That team member needs onboarding, needs training, needs direction, and most likely your team and business need time to stabilize around the new person, the new role, before stacking anything else on top of it. Before pushing the gas pedal on growth, that team member needs to get their bearings and caught up. How about if you recently made a major change? You are offering a new service. You've had a major price change, a rebrand, a restructuring of an offer. The business may need to settle into that change before you stack the next one and the next one and the next one. Because sometimes we like to change so much, we don't know if what we changed is having an impact, or because maybe there is an impact, but we don't know which change actually did it. We want to make sure that we are able to fully support any major changes in our business so we get the full ROI on those changes. Next, you're coming out of hyper growth. Revenue jumped. Your business infrastructure may not have caught up. And when I say your business infrastructure, I mean your team, your operations, your systems. They need a season to catch up, to stabilize, to have this new growth be the new normal so that you can still deliver the service and the experience to your clients that you want to be able to give to them at this new hyper growth mode. How about if your team is stretched? Like, as a leader, it is important to ask this question. What does your team need from you right now? Do they need you to show up and be consistent, to support them? Or do they need another pivot, another idea, another push? Because a tired team does not need a new goal, a new goal, a new goal. We want to make sure we're supporting our team. And yes, we definitely want seasons of growth. Of course, that's what we're talking about today. But there is something to be said about taking the temperature of your team and understanding when it's time to invest in your team, to stabilize that team versus pressure testing them with additional growth. And then lastly, I want to talk about the signal of your delivery suffering while your revenue is looking good. And I kind of alluded to this in one of the previous examples, but this does happen. You could be smooth sailing on the revenue. It's all looking great, but something is broken. The quality is slipping. Clients are noticing there's more fires, there's more complaints. It's harder to hit deadlines and milestones. Your team may feel like they're drowning. That is a business growing on the outside, all looks good financially, but it might be breaking on the inside. And we want to catch those before we're putting our foot on the gas, before we're going into another growth mode, because those breaks are just going to compound and be harder and harder to fix. We want to build growth in our businesses based on a solid foundation. And there's another time that I think is worth talking about that makes sense to me to hold the line. And it's not necessarily a signal, but if your business is seasonal, say that your business is has an influx of business in the summer or maybe over the holidays. During your peak demand period, when your customers are buying and your team is running full tilt, and your calendar is packed, I believe that it's your job to create stability and consistency for your team, for your clients. And it's not a great idea, and this is not universal. I'm saying generally to introduce new strategic changes during your busiest seasons of the year. And so if those seasons are predictable, then when you're strategizing, when it's go time throughout the year and when you're going to create new initiatives or do an overhaul or move your offices, don't align it with what you already know to be a very busy season. And before we move on, I just want to say a couple more things that I think are important about these signals. These signals only work if you are aware that they're happening and that you're honest with yourself when you ask and answer the question. Look, these circumstances are real. They are happening to each of us in our lives and in our businesses. But most business owners don't actually slow down and give themselves permission to ask the question so that they can strategically plan accordingly. I find that it's usually one extreme or the other. Life is going to need and demand more of you. Your business is going to need and demand more of you. Those are the signals that we've just previously talked about. And without consciously, strategically asking and answering this question, the response is either push in and no matter what's happening, you have goals, you have initiatives, and you're going to put the gas pedal down, right? Like you're going to grow. And it's going to be at a cost. It always is at a cost if you can't really have the capacity to hold everything, right? You've heard the sayings like you're dropping balls, things are falling through the cracks. There are very real reasons why that may not be the best strategic move. The other extreme or the other end of the pendulum is going to be that you ignore it, you don't ask the question, and you check out. You aren't showing up in the business as presently. You are not doing the things that we're going to talk about next, which is holding the line. You become the firefighter that just puts fires out. You might be so overwhelmed that you're stuck in paralysis, like you're not doing a lot of activity in the business, when what they need most from you, the business needs, your team needs, is for you to show up and be present consistently. And this is why I think that observing and listening to the signals and then asking and answering the questions around what is your capacity right now is so incredibly important. The business owner who holds the line on purpose is the one who stopped and asked. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky because a lot of business owners think that they're holding the line when they're actually just coasting. And again, holding the line is very active. It's not passive. Those two things are not the same. Remember that boulder? Holding the line is you planted there, hands braced, making an active choice. Coasting is stepping back and hoping everything stays put, like everything will be okay when you check back in. Those might look similar from the outside, or you might yourself think, well, if I'm not growing, those two things might be the same because I feel stagnant, but they're completely different on the inside. One is you will be where you were when you needed to hold the line. You don't need to make up any ground. When you start coasting or you step back or you check out, you are going to have ground to make up before you can even get to a point where you're pushing new growth, new strategy. So before you can hold the line in your business, you have to do two things. First, recognize that this is the right time to do it. And second, commit to the idea that this is a choice you're making on purpose. It's not default. It's not a default you're just slipping into. You know when to choose it. You know what real signals look like. Now, here's the part most business owners get wrong. We've gotten past I see the signals, I ask the question, I honestly answer the question on my capacity. But where business owners get it wrong is, what does it actually take to hold the line? When you hear hold the line, does your brain do something automatic? Does it run the phrase through the only filter that most business owners have? Growth or failure? Forwards or backwards? Since holding the line isn't growth, oftentimes business owners are filing this away under failure, or they think it's quitting, or it's proof that they can't keep up. Kind of a shame spiral. And that is not what holding the line is. And if you walk away from this episode with nothing else, I want you to walk away with this. Holding the line is active, it's intentional, and it's strategic work. It is not the absence of effort. It's the effort focused on protection instead of expansion. And protecting what you've built is important. There are two things about this strategy that I want you to understand. First, holding the line is not passive, it's active. If you step back and hope the business holds itself together, here's what actually happens, okay? So if you just consciously or unconsciously check out and you're not purposely holding the line when life gets busy, when the business gets busy, when you are at max capacity, revenue can start dropping. Your market share can start eroding. The sales pipeline can plateau or dry up. Clients can quietly leave for competitors who are giving higher or better service or experience. Your team can lose trust because you've either completely checked out and you're not supporting them or leading them in the way that they need to be. And I'm going to repeat this over and over again. The ground that you worked so damn hard to gain in your business slips away while you weren't paying attention. And I get it. You were paying attention to your health, a family member, something going on. Or maybe you were paying attention to the influx of business that you're currently in. You find yourself working in your business and not on your business. There is no ill intent here. I understand that you are doing the best that you can. But if you are not holding the line, then you will lose ground. And what that looks like is when you come check back in, okay, I'm going to ask you an honest question here. When you check back in, when you've checked out, does it feel like you have ground to make up? Does it feel like you need to dig yourself out of a hole? Do you need to make up for lost revenue, for lost market share? I don't want you to feel like when you come back in and go to growth mode that you have to start by digging yourself out. I want you to start right where you left off. The second important thing I want you to know about this strategy of holding the line is that it is not failure, it's a strategic choice. Here's what holding the line actually is. It's what it looks like to run your business strategically when the signals are there, when your capacity is limited for growth. The business owners who refuse to hold the line when the signals are there are the ones who burn out, or you're going to burn your team out, or you are going to break things. They push growth through a season that needed protection. They ignore their team's capacity, their own health, the cracks in their system, the delivery issues that are piling up, and they keep stacking on more. That is not success. That is not strategic growth. That is a one-way ticket to burnout and breaking the business. So let me ask you something. Let's imagine that you had a health crisis, or you needed a surgery, or a family member needed you to take care of them in some capacity that didn't fit perfectly on the weekends or after hours of the business. How will it feel to know that you have not lost any traction or focus in the business, and you've been able to show up the way in which you want to for yourself or for loved ones? Imagine your revenue is maintaining. Your team is feeling supported. Your clients are getting exceptional service. Your cash flow is strong and healthy. Sounds pretty good, right? And on top of that, you were there for the people you care about, yourself or others. And the business didn't fall apart while you were living through it. That is exactly what holding the line makes possible. Your business is still standing, still healthy, still yours, and when you're ready to grow it again, you are not making up any ground. That is the real reward. And it's one that many business owners miss because they're too busy pushing the boulder uphill during a season that was never asking them to push, or maybe shouldn't have asked them to push. So next time you catch yourself thinking that this strategy is passive, or that you should be doing more, or that this isn't what successful, quote unquote, successful owners do, I want to give you permission to stop beating yourself up, to stop thinking that way. And I want you to ask yourself a different question. What am I actively protecting right now? Powerful question, right? Like questions, words have power. Shifting your perception of the situation and asking the question of what am I actively protecting right now? And is it worth holding? Kind of changes the whole experience, right? And certainly frames this as not quitting or passive or losing or being lazy, but rather being incredibly strategic and doing what is best for both your business and yourself. All right, you've decided to hold the line. You're planted, your hands on the boulder. You are not going to lose traction. Now, I bet you're asking, what does that actually look like? Well, next I'm going to share with you 6 areas to focus on that keep the boulder exactly where it needs to be. Area number 1 is know your numbers. You want to still be watching the numbers. You want to ensure your revenue is staying consistent. Your profitability is staying consistent and is healthy. You want to ensure that you understand and are still watching your margins, your billable hours. Knowing your numbers are going to let you know if you're losing traction. It's going to be the sign or the metric that indicates the financial health of your business. Now, a word of caution here, looking at your P&Ls a month after, say, you're looking at March's P&Ls and you're not looking at them until April 15th, April 30th, or later, is not that helpful. I want you to know your numbers and be engaged with them on a weekly basis. This includes cash flow, understanding your pipeline of when new business is coming in. Depending on your industry, this might look like number of customers, daily sales, weekly sales. Whatever makes sense for your business, understanding your numbers closer to when they're happening is going to be better for you so that if you need to make a shift or a change, you are making it in more real time and not retroactively a month later, 2 months later. Those numbers are lagging and they're not as helpful. They're telling you what has already happened. So knowing your numbers means being in it, truly understanding the numbers, and in real time. Area number 2, maintaining your visibility. Your marketing doesn't stop during the hold the line season. Your existing strategies stay active. Your content keeps going. Your audience keeps hearing from you. What you're not doing is launching new campaigns, new funnels, or new platforms. Those are growth moves. You're not trying new things. You're doing the things that you know work consistently. The discipline in this area is resisting the urge to add more when what you're already doing is working. I want you to maintain the same rhythm, the same channels, the same quality. Your visibility stays consistent so that when you're ready to grow again, your audience is there and still warmed up and ready for you to try the new initiative. Maintaining your visibility is so important because if you don't, and you have inconsistency with your visibility, you're going to have inconsistency with your leads and your sales, thus inconsistency with your revenue and your profits. It all starts at the beginning of the cycle, which is marketing and visibility. So this is an easy trap to get into is because we're doing it and we don't see the results immediately, marketing, right? Or we're doing it and there's no hard deadlines. It's like, well, if I don't make that post, maybe next time I will. No, this is where I want you to use your discipline to stay consistent because it's top of the funnel that fuels everything else all the way down to your revenue and profitability. Area number 3 is show up consistently for your clients. Your clients don't need to know that you're holding the line or that this is a season that feels a little bit heavier for you. What they need is the same quality of service that they've always gotten from you. And again, I want you to think of this through the lens of what's the other option. The other option is you are not intentionally choosing to hold the line. Life gets heavy, you have other responsibilities, your capacity is lowered. And without choosing this, it's really easy for this to slip. So I want you to give the same response times, the same level of service, the same delivery. The business keeps serving at the level your clients expect because they should never feel the difference. And I want to draw a connection here as well. When you can consistently serve the clients you have, it's actually indirectly affecting future revenue, thus profitability, as well as your pipeline. If you are not able to provide the level of service that they've come to expect or that you want to give and provide from your company, they are less likely to be repeat customers and they're less likely to give you referrals. And so when we think about what's closest to the dollar, we can go out and do new marketing strategies and try them and they work, but you're bringing people in further up the funnel that need to get warmed up before they're willing to work with you. A referral from a happy customer is much easier to close and the buying process has been shortened. So it's really, really not just because you want to give great service, because we all do, but know that that is actually connected to the health of the business for the future investment of referrals and repeat business. Area number 4 is to support your team. Your team keeps doing their work. They're showing up in the same way. Your job as the leader is to keep showing up for them the way you always have. So what does this look like day to day? You're still going to have your team meetings. You're still going to have regular one-on-ones. You're still going to communicate, delegate, provide the information they need to do a good job. I want to bring this through the lens of if you are by default slipping and not holding the line because you're feeling overwhelmed, it is so easy to call off, cancel, or not show up for team meetings, one-on-ones. The information and the way that you're communicating to them you could become the bottleneck to information so that they're not able to do their job as well. So we want to show up for them consistently and really just looking at, okay, what is it that they absolutely need from me to do their jobs at the best of their ability? This time is not the time to have new initiatives, to hire new people, to make new policy changes. We don't need a new direction for your team. They need consistency from you. All right, area number 5 is maintain your systems. Again, if you're thinking about what it would look like if you are by default slipping, not as engaged in the business, overwhelmed, Sometimes that would mean that you go into firefighting or triage mode and you're not actually utilizing the systems that have gotten you to where you're at. And so this is the time to actually lean on your systems. There's incredible consistency with systems. There is efficiency, effectiveness with your systems. We want your systems to be working for you. And I'm going to assume they are working for you. So your job is to just not break them. And this is not the time for you to do an overhaul of your systems, to rebuild your tech stack, to redesign workflows, redo project management, find a new project management program. No, holding the line is creating the stability that your business needs in this season by using the systems that are already working. Leave them alone. Now, during this time, you may find areas in which you're like, I wish we could fix this or update this or tweak this, or you see an idea somewhere. Cool. That is going to happen. Create a document or a parking lot document to document improvements for later. You don't need to be adding anything or disrupting the workflow or your team during this time of holding the line. Area number 6 is to protect your own capacity. This is important. It's personal and it's the one that really matters here. You chose to hold a line for a reason. Maybe life was asking more of you. Maybe the business needs a season of stability. Either way, you are the one doing the work of holding the line. And the discipline of holding the line in this season only works if you're protecting yourself in the process. So it is okay that in this season you say, not now. That your knee-jerk reaction to every opportunity isn't yes. You can limit the decisions that you're making if they are not time sensitive to right now. You might defer some decisions, strategic decisions, business decisions for later down the road. This might be a time where you are not choosing to volunteer for activities and raising your hand when that is normally your go-to mode because you're protecting your own capacity. I want you to guard your calendar, and which is your time, but I also want you to guard your energy. Whatever's going on in this season, you need to preserve it to show up your best for the people who you love and your team and your clients and your business. And to do that, you really want to make sure that you are holding the line, protecting your own capacity, which means both time and energy. Holding the line is not a pause. It's not a break from the work. It's the work of protecting what you've already built. And when you do this right, you do not come back to your business ready to hit growth mode and start from behind. Because you have shown up consistently in the areas of knowing your numbers, maintaining visibility, which keeps your pipeline going, showing up consistently for your clients, supporting your team, maintaining your systems, and protecting your own capacity. We talked about when to choose holding the line, the signals in your personal life, the signals inside your business. The honest capacity question that tells you what to do with those signals, and the critical distinction between actively holding the line and just coasting. We talked about the real nature of holding the line, that it's not passive, it's active, why it's not failure, it's a strategic choice, and what holding the line looks like when you commit to it on purpose. We also talked about how to hold the line. We just covered the 6 areas to focus on that keep that boulder exactly where it needs to be. From finances, visibility, clients, team, systems, and do not forget yourself. Now, here's what I want you to really sit with before you close out this episode. Picture the 2 versions of your future self. In version 1, you recognize the signals. You choose to hold the line. You did the active work. Your business stayed intact while you navigated whatever season of life was asking from you, and you came back ready to push the boulder up the hill again. You started from exactly where you left off. Strong foundation, strong, still profitable, still trusted by your team and your clients, and still your business to take to the next level. However, in version 2, you refuse to acknowledge the signals. You just keep pushing. Or you step back without realizing you had stopped actively holding the line. And the boulder rolled right over you. And when you came back, ready to grow again, you didn't just start from where you left off. You had to make up the ground you lost. The clients who drifted or didn't come back for repeat business, the team that may have lost trust with you because they didn't feel supported, the systems that got broken under pressure, cash flow that slipped, financials that feel so overwhelming to get started back and understanding them and knowing them and diving deep into them. You had to rebuild before you could grow. Both versions of you were in the same season. One actively held the line. One did not. The difference is not the circumstances. The difference is the choice. Growth is not always the most strategic move. But preserving what you built always is the right move. Knowing what season you're in is the start. Choosing how you show up for it on purpose, that's the whole purpose of today's episode. I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast, and I sure hope you found this conversation around holding the line and utilizing the strategy in your business to be valuable. But I need to be straight with you. No change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So today's Take Action Challenge is to honestly answer one question. Do you have the capacity to push for growth right now? I want you to ask it now, but I also want this to be a tool in your toolbox, permission given to ask and answer this question frequently. Because that one honest answer will tell you what to do next. So be honest. Not what you wish it was, not through judgment, but ask and answer, what is the answer, and now do you need to pivot your current strategy? Now, I have done an episode on holding the line way back on episode 310, but that episode was different than today's. That episode was me reflecting back on my previous year and what holding the line had looked like, why I chose that strategy, how I decided to show up in the business. So if you want to hear how this strategy plays out in real life for me, then you need to go listen to episode 310. We'll be sure to link out to it in the show notes, or you can search for episode 310 wherever you're listening to this episode. If you've been listening to this podcast, this episode specifically, and you've been thinking, what would it be like to have a business coach and a strategy partner? Well, I think this episode gave you a bit of a good insight into how I work with my clients. So if that interests you and you want to find out more about working with me privately in my one-on-one coaching, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/coaching to learn about my coaching program and to book a discovery call. If this is your first time here, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you've heard today's episode and you thought, I think I have a business bestie, a friend, a colleague, someone that could really utilize hearing this message, I would love for you to share it with them. My goal is to share this podcast far and wide to help as many small business owners navigate building a business they love. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.